the idea for this concert's sort of been nagging away at the back of my mind for a couple of years now, and it took me a while to figure out how we as a mandolin orchestra could do a program of music that would honor the incredible legacy of Black musicians in America for the last X hundreds of years. And so much of what I think of as the really stupendous contributions of African American musicians comes from vocal traditions and come from small ensemble traditions. So it was a little bit of a challenge to figure out how are we going to do these things, because those influences are huge, but we're not a 4 or 5 piece swing band, and so it's not super easy for us to just pick our 24 favorite charts and run them down. And after poking around for a little while, I was able to find some music by composers and mandolin players who were Black from the early 20th and late 19th centuries. Some music that I'm not sure has been performed, I don't know, maybe a half dozen times since their death. Seth Weeks is a person whose music we're really excited to present. Those charts we had to put in special requests to the Library of Congress to get. They're not floating around easy to find anymore, and I don't believe that they're not a part of the sort of regular performance repertoire for mandolin orchestras these days. But he was a mandolin player, composer, and arranger, director, and teacher, and we're really happy to have some of his pieces to perform. James Reese Europe, who was a well-known musician and band leader who served in World War I, both as was a combat veteran of World War I and also led his regimental band. His bands in New York leading up to World War I had all kinds of mandolins in them, right? They were a common... his charts, his arrangements have mandolin parts, which is unique for a lot of big bands, right? That doesn't show up often. So very happy to be presenting some of his music, which also I don't think is very commonly performed anymore. So,
no.
I'm really happy to sort of be able to shine a light on some of these things that have faded a bit from limelight popularity.
To follow on one thing you said about how many mandolins were in his orchestra, in the Clef Club Orchestra, which he led, there was a 125-piece orchestra. There were 47 mandolins. That's pretty amazing.
30% mandolins. That's terrific. Those are two names that for this coming concert. Two names: Seth Weeks and James Reese Europe. Two musicians whose work has, to a certain degree, faded from popular consciousness, and we're really happy and honored to be able to sort of bring that back, bring their music back a bit, honor their achievements and their memory. We're also playing music by much better-known musicians. Duke Ellington, I think, for any musician or music fan, is still largely a household name. Duke Ellington, Scott Joplin's on this program as well, and really happy to be doing some of those pieces. Some of these pieces are ones that we've done in other concert programs before, but one of the things I wanted to do with this show is to really highlight and celebrate the excellence that comes from the Black American musical tradition. It's impossible to separate that from American music, all told. And I think very often we say this is something that came from the Black American musical tradition, or it came from Black musicians, and it was made popular by Elvis. And we talked about Elvis
Right.
for an hour, right?
Bing Crosby.
Right, or Bing Crosby, right? And I didn't want to skip over it. I didn't want to elide it and say, the blues made this music possible, and now we're going to do, a blues by these white musicians and enjoy that. I really wanted to focus on where it came from, and I hope we do that and pull it off well.
And part of the inspiration for doing this now is that the Classical Mandolin Society of America, CMSA, of which we are a member, has an initiative, has adopted an initiative called Mandolins Make a Difference. And it specifically urges mandolin orchestras to engage the audiences and educate the audiences in the history of the musical traditions. Reach out and do what you can. So this was one of our ways of answering that.